Some people collect trains. While some people collect clowns. And some people even collect hubcaps. But there is a select group of people that collect something else.
I started out strictly with the 60 or the 57 Corvette, strictly as an idea that it was going to be something fun to do, and then I got a couple more because it gave my 6 boys when they were growing up something to do, and it's just so happened that I picked up some cars at very reasonable prices that have turned out to appreciate fantastically over the years, and so this is my retirement fund. It never started out that way, but it's become that.
Well, I'm not bragging, babe, so don't put me down. But I've got the fastest set of wheels in town. When something comes up to me, you don't even try. 'Cause if I had a set of wings, man, I know she could fly. She's my little scoop. You don't know what I got.
How many cars do you have in your collection?
Well, the number varies, probably from a low of 20 to a high of 30. I think right now they're 28, but they come and they go. I have my favorites that I never sell, and some that we buy purely for profit motive, so that we have the money to work on the other cars. The oldest car in the collection is 1931 Model A town car. Now, in the 30s, these cars cost between $295 and $395 brand new, and a lot of them had the spare tires mounted on the rear of the car, just bolted onto the rear of the car. The fancier models had one side mount, and the real fancy ones had a side mount in each fender. So what we did was we took two cars, one with the left side mount and one with the right side mount on the fender, and made a rare twin side mount model out of it. That particular car won the National Model A closed car division in 1970 and 1971. And it's not the car that I've had the longest in the collection, but it's the oldest car by far and away. I don't have anything pre-war other than that. All my collection's post-war. I can remember growing up before the war, before World War II, in say 1937 to 1939, and the vast majority of cars that I remember were Model A's, and a few Model T's, but mostly Model A's. They were extremely durable, extremely simple, bulletproof, just, and you'll drive into Dubuque today every once in a while and see an original Model A running around, not the one with the $3,000 paint job and this sort of thing, but I mean a plain old clunker driving down Dodge Street. They're still driving them around today.
Out of all the cars that you have, which car is your favorite car?
Well, that's a question I always ask people whenever they finish looking over the collection. It'd be really hard to say what car was my favorite. I think that you'd have to say a sentimental favorite because it was the first one and the oldest car in the collection is the 1957 fuel-injected Corvette. I had always wanted a Corvette from the time that I saw the very first one in 1955 when I was a senior in medical school until I went into general practice down in southern Illinois. And in 1960, I bought my first Corvette, and it was a 57. And this particular car I found in Old back in about 1965 or 1966, and it was setting in a farmer's barnyard, and the doors were off of it, and pigs were running through the center of it. And we rescued it from there and built it up to a point where it was a fairly nice looking car. The purists today at a car show would scoff at it because it's the wrong color. It's white and it should have red inserts in the panels, and it's got black, and it should have red upholstery and it's got black. But we did all this long before the Corvette fever was upon everybody else. I bought the car for $400, and probably at the most that we've put to it is $800. But it's painted just exactly the way my first Corvette was, white with black racing stripes, which of course is incorrect. So since it's the oldest car, I don't ever drive it. It was turned over and driven. My son Mark drove it last summer, and still a strong performer, still runs good. And someday I imagine that what we'll do is it'll be all nearly correct. It'll have the correct paint job, the correct interior. It doesn't have stock wheels on it. But like I said, that was the first car. As far as a car that seems to be everybody else's favorite, and the most eye-catching car of the collection, I suppose, has to be the GT40 Ford. And this is a car that I rescued from the basement of Ford Engineering back in 1972. I had attended a Ferrari meet at Dearborn, Michigan, and we were in the process of getting the Ferrari ready to show. And some Ford engineers came over and asked if they could take photographs of the cooling system on my Ferrari, because they said they were having problems with an Italian car that they brought over called the Pantera that De Tomaso in Modena, Italy had built for Ford. And they indeed did have a lot of problems with the car. The development was not very good at all. And I told them, well, I didn't care what they did. They could take the cooling fans off and stuff and take them back to Ford Engineering and take them apart if they wanted to, just so they had them back the next day so that I could start the car up and drive it onto the concourse field. And I guess as a reward for that, they took me to the innards of Ford Engineering. I remember they gave me a ride in a pickup truck that I'll never forget, and I found out it had a 460 cubic inch Lincoln engine in it with twin turbochargers, and that was back when turbocharging wasn't in the vogue that it is now. But I saw all kinds of weird and wonderful exotic things that they were working on. The crash tests were being done there. They were taking their cars and some of the competition and crashing them into walls on cables with complete television, slow motion coverage with anthropometric dummies and this sort of thing. And I said, "What's over in the corner?" And they said, "Oh, that's Lee Iacocca's old GT40 Ford." And I said, "Could I take a look at it?" And I said, "Yeah." They take a look at it, and they pulled the cover off. And a group of Ford dealers had gone together and purchased the GT40 from Ford of England in late 1965 and used it in an advertising campaign. It was taken around from dealership to dealership to advertise Ford's beating Ferrari at Le Mans in 1966 and 1967. And came back, they said they stripped the interior out and redid the interior for Lee Iacocca. He wanted to drive it, and he drove it on the street for about 3 months, and finally the Detroit police asked him not to do that anymore. And so the car went down into the basement, and there it languished until I saw it. It took me about 18 months to find out who owned the car. I mean, who at Ford Motor Company could pick up a pen and sign the title over to me? And I finally traced it down through a series of telephone calls, made them a ridiculously low bid, and they said, fine, come get it. And we went and started the, got a fresh battery, filled the tank with fuel, changed the oil, started it up, and drove it back to Iowa. And that caused quite a commotion on the road too.
That's another story in itself.
Yeah, that's another story in itself.
Just a little disc coupe with a flathead wheel, but she walk a thunderbird like she's standing still. She boarded in her lead and she stroked in port to do 140 in the top end floor. She's my little disc coupe. You don't know what I got.
The most useful and therefore the favorite car, the one that I use is the 1973 Daytona Ferrari, the red Daytona. The kids refer to it as my beater. It's the one I drive, and when they say I drive it, means that I'll insure it for 1 or 2 or 3 days at a time during the summer, and have a specific destination, like we drive to Minneapolis or we drive to like Geneva or something like that. But the car was bought, picked up in Italy, and the first set of miles was put on it there. Came here just in time for the Arab oil embargo and the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. And so from 1973 to 1981, I think we only put about 400 miles on the car. And at that time, I just decided that I wanted to take the car back to Europe, and we drove it to New York, put it on board the Queen Elizabeth, and put 5,000 miles on it in Europe and back again, and it hasn't been driven a whole lot since then. We have to start preparing it sometime within the next month because I plan another return trip to Europe aboard the Queen, and we plan to take the red Daytona. I would imagine that the black Rolls-Royce Phantom 5, since it's totally restored, is another car I like a lot. There are ridiculous cars in the collection, like the car that's a caricature of the muscle car era, the 1970 Plymouth Superbird with its ridiculous hugger orange paint job and the big wing on the back. I bought that car just because I think when they came out in 1970, I thought only a fool would own something like that because it was absolutely ridiculous looking on the road. But later on, they appreciated in value, and that's one of the lowest mileage original Superbirds with the Hemi engine, which is a very rare option. And it's even rarer yet that it's a Hemi engine plus an automatic transmission. So that's always a crowd pleaser when people come around, and I think everybody likes the big black Rolls-Royce Phantom 5 too, because it's just so elegant.
Yeah.
But if I had to say what was my favorite, it would be the red Daytona Ferrari, because that's the one that I've had the most fun in. I have many memories of 10,000 miles of European driving with it.
How many Mercedes cars do you have in your collection?
I have a half a dozen, but most of them are drivers. They're nothing special. The only one that's special is the 1970 6.3 300 SEL. That car was owned by Krupp Manufacturing in Germany and was chauffeur-driven, carried German executives on the Autobahn. Came to this country. I bought it in Illinois when it had about 35,000 miles on it, and it's now got about 70,000, and it's been to Europe once aboard the Queen. And it's an honest-to-goodness 145-mile-an-hour four-door sedan, and it's, of course, very surprising around here that you have a car that has performance that exceeds that of a mid-60s Corvette in a big, dumb-looking gray sedan, because most everybody associates Mercedes around here with longevity and diesel and slow and 35 miles to gallon. So it's very out of character. A car that a lot of controversy surrounded it too, because the car almost never was built because there were Germans who said that by taking the limousine motor and putting it in a mid-sized sedan, which is basically what Pontiac did when they invented the GTO back in the early 60s, that you would create a German hot rod, and that a lot of rich lead-footed people would be buying them and give Mercedes a bad name. And sure enough, that's just what happened. So production was shut off after only about 2,000 cars were made. And this is probably in the middle of the production series, but for 70,000 miles, that's low mileage. It's the one car in my collection that really hasn't appreciated much in value. I had the chance when I bought that to buy a 3.5 convertible of the same year for $10,000, or $10,000 for that car. That car is worth maybe between 12 and 15 now at the most. That same convertible that I could have driven away with is now worth $50,000. So you know, hindsight's always 100%. But again, that's a car I've enjoyed an awful lot. But you have to kind of watch out, because you got 2 tons of metal, and it'll move awful quick, and it's a lot of bulk to stop.
How many Ferraris are there? Are there 3?
4.
4.
There's the red one that we've already talked about. There's Luella's white Ferrari Spider. The silver Ferrari is maybe the last new Daytona in the world. It's got 118 miles on it, and I bought it from Bill Hara, and I have certification papers. It's unlicensed, untitled, and unregistered, and it's only started from time to time just to keep the engine loosened up and run up and down the farm lane. I think that there might be one other one in the world. I don't know where it is, but I heard that a videotape outfit out in California made a videotape that included a bunch of Ferrari racing cars, and somebody out there in his Ferrari stable has a Daytona that he did just what I did, or that he put it away. The Spider is a very rare car. There were less than 100 made over the entire production span, and it again is certified as one of William Hara's personal cars, and it's untitled, unregistered, and unlicensed, but it's got about 5,000 miles on it. We took it to the Monterey Ferrari meet, and the Californians simply could not believe that some Iowan would come out with a car like that. There were 40 Daytonas there in contention at the concours, and there were 2 other Spiders. One of them had 87,000 miles on it, and the other one had 97,000 on it. So, I mean, it's just like new. Then we have an old 1957 high roof Buono, a 250 GT, that is a